So we've got 10 minutes together today to solve some really big problems that we have in the wedding industry. You know what the problem is? We have a very short lead time to get our potential clients to know us, to remember us, to differentiate us from anyone else. And I also hear a lot of times that some of you feel that you're not getting paid what you're worth. Well, what if I tell you that I have a few suggestions that are going to help solve both those problems? Be good to have, right? And it's very simple. You need to make sure that you're recognizable through all the colors that you use in all of your branding materials. And it needs to be integrated throughout, in what you wear, in what you show on your website, in what your handout, anything your potential client touches, that's how they need to see you, because it's a shortcut. It's like a subliminal message in their memory that you are somewhat familiar. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 steps today on how you can integrate those colors throughout all of your materials and make it successful. And I have some really good examples for you. So let me tell you, I work very closely with a graphic designer who does my illustrations and things like that. And we both believe in the psychology of color. However, in the wedding industry, one of the biggest things we face is that there's a lot of very similar marketing out there. So while psychology is good in understanding, how red makes people feel, how blue makes people feel, that's somewhat important. But more importantly is doing some research and see what your competition is doing. You don't want your materials to look exactly the same as everyone else. And the top 3, of course, my logo, my company's logo, a couple of my competitors. And then there's a gentleman who opened a planning company in Philadelphia. And Mark, when he went in there, he found that everybody in his industry there were using really soft, romantic colors. So he decided he wanted to be completely different, so it would make him memorable. So he went with the red. And he wore red shirts everywhere. The red was on his website. The red was just everywhere. Everywhere you saw Mark, there was red. And pretty soon, he became known as the wedding planner in red. Okay? Clients referred to him that way. Other service providers referred to him that way. And even more so than his name, people could find him just by the way he looked. So that made him very different from everyone else. So do your research. You want to stand out from amongst your competitors. Number 2, you're going to choose your color scheme. And you can do that a number of ways. This is a color wheel, and by the way, I have 100 of them with me to give away. So I'm going to be here till around 10. Come see me. I'm happy to give it to you. But when you start with a color scheme, first of all, my graphic designer recommends sticking with a classic color, okay? Because if you're really trendy throughout, very soon you're going to look dated. But we're all in business that we're supposed to be up on the trends, right? We're supposed to look hip and cool. So she said, don't be afraid to integrate some of the trendier colors in your designs, but make it something that can pass through in and out. So don't shy away from them. Just don't make that the key thing that you use. So there are 3 different types of color schemes in the most basic form that you can use. You can do monochromatic, which is the same color of varying shades up and down on the same side of the color wheel, so from light to dark. And monochromatic is a beautiful look, but sometimes on the web it doesn't translate well, so that's something to be aware of. You can do complementary. So those are things that are across the color wheel, so from the blues all the way through down to the oranges. And then you can do analogous, and those are the colors that are side by side on the color wheel. And that's very whimsical, it's fresh, it's vibrant if you go on the side to side way. But I'm going to tell you something. When I was researching for this presentation, I found the most amazing website, and you need to write this down. It's color.adobe.com. I had so much fun here. First of all, it's free. And I'm always telling people when they're working on their color schemes to look for inspiration all around them. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in nature. It's in clothing. You can go to a houseware store and see what kind of color schemes they're putting together. But all you need is a picture. So I'm going to show you what I did. This is an outfit of mine that I really like, and I wanted to see what kind of a color scheme I could make from it. And so I uploaded the picture to color, and it actually came up with 5 different color schemes for me that I could use. So they say that it's bright all the way through to dark. So you're able to choose those things and use them. And so if you want to play around with that and come up with some designs, you can even present that to a graphic artist or whomever is doing your work for you. So I highly encourage that you check that out. So step 3, make a list. Think about all the things that you have that touch your clients. They're very obvious things, the business cards, the website. What are all the different ways that you can incorporate this color? Because I'm going to remind you again, having that color makes an imprint. It's a subliminal message. It's a familiarity. So you really want to make sure to be consistent. Step 4, pay for the best you can get. Not everybody can afford or wants to afford the services of a graphic designer. They're expensive, but I encourage using it because it just helps you with consistency throughout, and it helps you, negotiate better rates with printers. It helps you really make sure that your message is consistent throughout. But if you can't work with a graphic designer, there are online services, 99 Designs, Elance. You can do things relatively inexpensively, certainly affordably, to get your marketing materials together. And then, of course, when it comes to web design, I'm clueless. I cannot design a website. I can barely get through the HTML to post a blog. So I, of course, work with a professional designer, but if that's not what you can do, there are beautiful templates. I think most of you know that by now. Just make sure you look at what your competition is doing so that your template isn't exactly like everyone else. I find that a lot with photographers. It seems that templates come and go and they're really trendy, so you'll see a lot of people doing the same thing over and over again. And that's really something that you want to avoid. So step 5. You're going to use it everywhere. And I use this example because this person's branding just blew me away. And a calamandan, I had no idea, I've lived in Florida forever. A calamandan is a little citrus fruit, okay? And it's a very unique product that this particular person sells to chefs. And she sells the materials so they can use it in various things of their products. So to me, when she chose her logo, it reminds me of a fresh citrus fruit. I mean, it's bright and it's cheerful. And of course, this is the front page of her website. You can see her color goes consistently throughout, but she doesn't stop there. This is what her trade show booth looks like. And I'm going to tell you, when I met her, I was speaking at an International Personal Chefs Association conference, and there was a room full of really neat kitchen gadgets and food samples, but I instantly walked over to her. She looked so put together. Okay, from the table linen to all the products on there, to her signage and even the clothing that everyone wears. And not all of us feel comfortable putting together a uniform for our employees when they're out in public, but she even has aprons. So if a person is working for her and is wearing whatever it is they happen to be wearing that day, she has that apron over top so she's recognizable. When she's loading in for a trade show, all of her packaging has it, and I hear you chuckling, but it creates interest. You never know who's watching you doing load-in. If you come in all haphazard with stuff stacked all over the place, that's the image you're portraying rather than being polished and organized. So you already, at the front drive, people are getting to see, who she is and what her things are all about. She also finally wrapped her transportation, so everywhere she goes, everyone can recognize her and see the calamandan logo. And then finally, even her packaging. You cannot purchase anything from her. You cannot take away literature from her unless it's in her colors and has her logo on it. And this is not expensive. That is a paper bag that you can buy at a party supply store for less than $1 for the most part. And then she has stickers that she applies. So these are things that are not expensive to do. They're just things you need to think about and consider. Right? You want to make your things stand out as much as you possibly can. That's the object. And you want to imprint that memory so if I had forgotten her name, if I had lost her business card, I would have gone online and done a search for small citrus fruit, or heaven forbid I would remember the name calamandan. She would stand out for me from among the competition. And I actually did a search, and I'm telling you, I could zero in on her a mile away. There's no way she'd be forgotten. So I told you about the branding expert, or the graphic designer that I work with, Amy, and she was very kind to give me a worksheet that I will be happy to give to you. You can go to my website and at SusanSutherland.com, WMBA 2014. It's there if you want to work on a branding worksheet. Please feel free to download it and use it. My email is there. If you have questions, feel free to contact me. And please don't forget, I'm going to hang out at the author's table. Come by, pick up a color wheel, and have fun with it. Branding should be fun. Using color should be fun. So even if you like what you have now, inspire yourself and think about how you may make some changes to make yourself a little bit more unique and to stand out. And thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.